Before starting story, please subscribe my channel for daily stories, and do not compare my stories with anything, it's just for entertain you. Thanks. Let's begin. In the celestial expanse, far beyond the familiar constellations of Earth, lay a planet named Zentoria. A world of lush, bioluminescent forests, towering crystalline mountains, and sapphire oceans, it was a planet of breathtaking beauty. Yet, Zentoria was a world in turmoil, its serenity shattered by an incessant war between two formidable alien species, the technologically advanced Driaxians and the brutal, reptilian Zentorians. At the heart of this conflict was Kyra, a humanoid alien with skin the color of twilight and eyes that held the depths of the cosmos. She was a single mother, a protector, a warrior, and a survivor, all rolled into one. Her world revolved around her daughter, Nova, a precocious child with an infectious laugh and a spirit as bright as the twin suns that illuminated their planet. Kyra's life was a nomadic existence, a constant flight from the encroaching war. She carried Nova from one hidden refuge to another, always one step ahead of the warring factions. They lived in fear, their days filled with the haunting echoes of explosions and the screams of the innocent. Yet, despite the constant threat, Kyra was determined to shield Nova from the horrors of their world. One fateful day, as they traversed the dense, emerald-green forest that cloaked the heart of Zentoria, their idyllic escape was shattered. A screech, like thunder tearing through the canopy, heralded the arrival of a Zentorian war beast, a monstrous creature with razor-sharp claws and eyes that glowed with predatory intent. Panic seized Kyra as she grabbed Nova's hand and sprinted deeper into the forest. The undergrowth whipped at their legs, and the weight of fear pressed down on them like an invisible force. The chase was a blur of green and brown, the ground trembling beneath their feet as the beast closed in. In a desperate attempt to evade their pursuer, Kyra and Nova split up, their cries echoing through the trees. The forest swallowed Nova whole, leaving Kyra alone with the terrifying reality of her daughter's disappearance. Stripped of her possessions in the frantic escape, Kyra was left naked and vulnerable. The once familiar forest had transformed into a labyrinth of shadows, the comforting sounds of nature replaced by the ominous silence of isolation. Fear gnawed at her, a cold, relentless predator. She was a mother without her child, a warrior without her weapon, a survivor facing her greatest challenge yet. The war raged on, indifferent to the plight of a single alien. Kyra was lost, alone, and hunted. But within her, a flicker of hope remained. She would find Nova. She would protect her. And together, they would find a way to escape this world of endless conflict. A cold dread settled in Kyra's heart as the realization of Nova's absence fully dawned upon her. The forest, once a sanctuary, had become a terrifying labyrinth. The beast's guttural roars echoed through the trees, growing louder with each passing moment. Panic threatened to consume her, but she pushed it down, replacing it with a fierce determination. She had to find Nova. With a surge of adrenaline, Kyra transformed from a terrified mother into a primal survivor. She scanned the forest floor, searching for any sign of her daughter, a broken twig, a disturbed leaf, anything. But the forest was unforgiving, erasing evidence with ruthless efficiency. The beast's growls were closer now, a menacing rhythm that pounded in her ears. Fear was a luxury she couldn't afford. She had to move, to think, to survive. With desperate agility, Kyra began to climb the nearest tree, her bare feet finding purchase on the rough bark. The higher she climbed, the better her vantage point. The canopy offered a precarious perch, but it also provided a measure of safety. Below, the forest floor was a green expanse, punctuated by the occasional towering tree. There was no sign of Nova, and the beast was drawing closer. A surge of despair washed over her, but she fought it down. She had to stay focused. As her eyes scanned the forest, a glimmer of hope caught her attention. In the distance, a faint light pierced through the dense foliage. It was a beacon in the darkness, a promise of safety. A surge of determination coursed through her veins. If she could reach that light, perhaps she could find help, or better yet, a way to rescue Nova. The decision was made. She would descend from the tree and make a run for the light. It was a risky gamble, but it was her only chance. The beast's roars were now an insistent drumbeat, urging her on. With a deep breath, Kyra swung herself down from the branch and landed softly on the forest floor. The ground was soft and yielding, but the undergrowth was thick and tangled. Every step was a challenge, and the beast's proximity added a layer of urgency. She ran, her bare feet pounding against the earth, her senses on high alert. The forest seemed to close in around her, the trees looming like menacing giants. The light grew brighter as she drew closer. It seemed to pull her forward, a magnetic force that promised salvation. Hope, a fragile flame, flickered within her. Perhaps, just perhaps, this light was the key to finding Nova. As she burst through the final barrier of foliage, the world transformed. The dense green gave way to a breathtaking vista. A vast, open plain stretched out before her, bathed in the soft glow of bioluminescent plants. In the distance, a colossal, crystal-like structure stood tall, its surface shimmering with an ethereal light. Exhausted but exhilarated, Kyra collapsed to the ground. She was safe, at least for now. But her heart ached with worry for Nova. She had to find her daughter, no matter the cost. With renewed determination, she rose to her feet and faced the unknown. The journey had just begun. The light, a persistent beacon of hope, guided Kyra deeper into the heart of the forest. Her journey was arduous, her body protesting against the relentless terrain. The forest floor was a treacherous patchwork of sharp rocks and slippery moss, and the undergrowth was a tangle of vines that threatened to ensnare her. But with each step, her resolve grew stronger. Nova was out there, somewhere, and she would not give up until she found her. The forest seemed to change as she progressed. The towering trees began to thin out, replaced by a more open canopy. Strange, bioluminescent plants cast an ethereal glow, illuminating the path ahead. The air was filled with the soft hum of unseen creatures, a haunting melody that both comforted and unnerved her. Finally, the forest yielded to a vast, open expanse. The towering mountains that framed the plain were a breathtaking sight, their peaks capped with snow that seemed to glow in the ethereal light. Cascading waterfalls plunged from the heights, creating a symphony of sound that filled the air. The beauty of the landscape was almost overwhelming, but Kyra's focus remained unwavering. Her daughter was her sole concern. A sense of isolation washed over her. The forest, with all its dangers, had been a familiar enemy. This open plain was a different kind of threat, one that promised both opportunity and danger. She was alone, vulnerable, and prey to whatever might lurk in the shadows of the mountains or the depths of the waterfalls. A shiver ran down her spine. The forest had been filled with the sounds of life, even if it was often the life of her pursuer. Here, the silence was almost deafening, broken only by the roar of the waterfalls. It was a silence that held the promise of both peace and peril. Kyra forced herself to concentrate. She had to find shelter, food, and water. She needed to regain her strength, both physical and mental. And most importantly, she needed to find a way to continue her search for Nova. She began to walk, her eyes scanning the horizon. There was a cave, a promising dark mouth in the base of one of the mountains. It could offer shelter from the elements and protection from unseen predators. But before she ventured inside, she gathered some of the bioluminescent plants, their soft glow a potential source of light. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the plain, Kyra made her way towards the cave. With each step, she felt a growing sense of determination. The journey had been fraught with peril, but she had survived. And she would continue to survive, no matter what challenges lay ahead. For in her heart, there burned a love for her daughter that was stronger than any fear. Kyra's heart pounded like a war drum as she shielded Nova with her body. The beast, a grotesque amalgam of shadows and teeth, loomed over them, its breath a rancid stench that filled the cave. The creature's eyes, twin pools of molten obsidian, were fixed on the two humans, a predatory gleam burning within them. Nova, still trembling, clung to Kyra, her small body shaking with terror. Kyra stroked her daughter's hair, offering silent reassurance. She knew she had to be strong, not just for herself, but for Nova as well. This was their fight, their survival. With a roar that echoed through the cavern, the beast lunged. Kyra raised her sword, the cold metal glinting in the dim light. The blade met the creature's hide with a sickening thud, but the creature barely seemed to flinch. Its tough, leathery skin absorbed the blow like water on a rock. Kyra realized she needed a different strategy. She feinted a low strike, drawing the beast's attention before leaping to the side. As the creature lunged again, she drove her sword into its exposed underbelly. The beast howled in pain, but its rage only intensified. The battle raged on, a brutal dance of life and death. Kyra fought with a ferocity born of desperation, her movements a blur of steel and shadow. She dodged and weaved, her reflexes honed by years of training. But the beast was relentless, its attacks growing more vicious with each passing moment. Nova, terrified but brave, watched the battle unfold with wide, frightened eyes. Her mother's courage inspired her, and a flicker of determination ignited within her small heart. She reached into her pocket, her fingers closing around a smooth, round object. It was a small, glowing stone, a gift from her father. As the beast closed in for another attack, Nova hurled the stone with all her might. The stone struck the creature's face, blinding it momentarily. Kyra seized the opportunity, driving her sword deep into the beast's heart. With a final, earth-shattering roar, the creature collapsed. The cave fell silent, the only sound the heavy breathing of mother and daughter. They stood there, panting, their bodies trembling with exhaustion and relief. Kyra knelt and pulled Nova into a tight embrace. "We did it, my brave girl," she whispered, tears of joy streaming down her face. Nova clung to her mother, her small body shaking with sobs of relief. They had survived. But their journey was far from over. The Centaurian threat still loomed large, and they were just two people in a vast, hostile world. Yet, as they looked into each other's eyes, they found a strength and determination that would carry them through whatever challenges lay ahead. For now, they would rest. They would heal. And then, they would continue their search. They would find a way to stop the Centaurians, to protect their world. Because they were not just survivors, they were fighters. And they would never give up. The beast lunged towards Kyra, its claws slashing through the air with deadly precision. But Kyra was prepared. She dodged the attacks, relying on her quick reflexes and agility to stay out of harm's way. With a swift motion, she pulled out a hidden weapon from her belt, a laser blaster that she had scavenged from a fallen enemy. Firing at the beast with precision and skill, Kyra managed to wound the creature, causing it to retreat in pain and fury. Its roars echoed through the cavern, a terrifying symphony of rage and agony. Nova clung to her mother, tears streaming down her face as she witnessed the fierce battle that had unfolded before her eyes. Kyra knew she couldn't rely solely on the blaster. The creature was too resilient, its hide too thick to be penetrated by the energy beams. She needed to get closer, to find a weak spot. With renewed determination, she discarded the blaster and drew her sword. The beast charged again, its eyes burning with hatred. Kyra met it head-on, her sword a blur of silver in the dim light. They clashed with a force that shook the very foundations of the cave. The ground trembled beneath their feet as they exchanged blow after blow. Kyra felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through her veins. The fear that had gripped her earlier was replaced by a cold, calculating focus. She studied the creature's movements, searching for an opening. And then she saw it, a vulnerable spot behind its armored neck. With a swift, powerful thrust, Kyra drove her sword into the creature's exposed flesh. A triumphant cry escaped her lips as she felt the blade sink deep. The beast roared in agony, its body convulsing violently. But the creature was not defeated yet. It lashed out with its tail, sending Kyra flying backwards. She hit the cold, hard cave wall with a sickening thud, the wind knocked out of her. As she lay on the ground, pain shooting through her body, she could hear Nova's terrified screams. A surge of primal instinct propelled her back to her feet. She had to protect her daughter. Adrenaline fueled her, masking the pain. She staggered to her feet and faced the beast once more. The creature was weakened, but its eyes still burned with a deadly intensity. It lunged at her, its claws outstretched. Kyra raised her sword, ready to meet the attack. In that moment, a plan formed in her mind. As the beast drew closer, Kyra feigned weakness, allowing it to believe it had won. The creature hesitated, its massive form looming over her. With a sudden burst of speed, Kyra rolled to the side, avoiding the creature's attack. She then sprang to her feet and delivered a powerful kick to its exposed underbelly. The beast howled in pain, its knees buckling beneath it. Kyra seized the opportunity, driving her sword deep into the creature's heart. With a final, earth-shattering roar, the beast collapsed, its lifeless body hitting the ground with a heavy thud. Silence fell over the cave. Kyra stood over the fallen creature, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She looked down at Nova, who was huddled in a corner, her face pale with fear. Kyra knelt beside her daughter and pulled her into a tight embrace. "It's over, Nova," she whispered, her voice trembling. "It's over." Nova clung to her mother, her body shaking with relief. They had survived the ordeal, but the scars of the battle would remain with them forever. As they sat there in the darkness, they could hear the faint echo of their own ragged breathing, a stark reminder of the terror they had faced. As the dust settled and the beast vanished into the shadows, Kyra and Nova stood united, their bond forged in the crucible of terror and triumph. Their hearts pounded in their chests, a rhythm echoing the tumultuous events that had unfolded. They were alive, miraculously so, and a sense of overwhelming gratitude washed over them. Kyra knelt beside Nova, her hands trembling as she examined her daughter for injuries. Relief flooded through her when she found none, only a few scratches and bruises. "We did it, Nova," she whispered, her voice hoarse with emotion. "We survived." Nova nodded, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and wonder. She looked at the lifeless body of the creature, a sense of disbelief etched on her young face. This was a world far removed from the safety and comfort of their home planet, a world where survival was a daily struggle. They spent the next few hours exploring the cave, searching for any supplies or clues that might help them in their journey. They found a small cache of dried rations and a few medical supplies, a meager bounty but enough to sustain them for a while. As darkness enveloped the cave, they huddled together for warmth, their bodies trembling from exhaustion and fear. The following morning, they ventured out of the cave, the world outside bathed in the soft glow of the alien sun. Zentoria was a harsh and unforgiving planet, its landscape a barren wasteland dotted with strange, twisted rock formations. They traveled for days, their journey marked by encounters with hostile creatures, treacherous terrain, and the constant threat of starvation and dehydration. But through it all, their bond deepened. Kyra became not just a mother to Nova, but also her protector, her teacher, and her friend. Nova, in turn, brought a spark of innocence and resilience to Kyra's world, reminding her of the beauty and wonder that still existed in the universe. They faced countless challenges, from navigating through dense, alien forests to crossing treacherous canyons. They learned to hunt for edible plants and small creatures, and to extract water from the arid soil. They faced storms of blinding sand and endured nights of freezing cold. Yet, they persevered. Their determination was fueled by a shared purpose, to find a way home. They carried with them a flicker of hope, a belief that they would eventually find a way to escape this desolate world. As they journeyed through the vast expanse of Zentoria, they encountered other survivors, scattered remnants of the human expedition. Some were hostile, driven by desperation and fear. Others were friendly, offering aid and companionship. Through it all, Kyra and Nova learned to trust their instincts and to rely on each other. Their journey was a test of their physical and mental endurance. It was a test of their love for each other. And in the end, they emerged stronger than ever before. They had faced the unknown, conquered their fears, and discovered a strength they never knew they possessed. As they stood on a hilltop, gazing out at the endless horizon, Kyra and Nova felt a profound sense of peace. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the land. The sky was ablaze with a breathtaking array of colors, a stark contrast to the barren landscape. And as they looked up at the starry sky above, Kyra and Nova made a silent vow to never give up hope, to always stay strong in the face of adversity, and to cherish the love that bound them together, forever and always. For they knew that as long as they had each other, they could overcome any obstacle that stood in their way, and emerge victorious in the end. The end.